I'm Jackie Shulman with Shulman Group of Coldwell Banker Realty in downtown Palo Alto. Today, I'm with Simon, the real estate attorney, also in Palo Alto as well, to discuss the common issues that you see in your practice in real estate that you would like to share with our viewers.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. My name again is Simon Offord. I'm with the firm of Brewer Offord Pedersen. We're a small boutique real estate firm in Palo Alto. All we do is real estate. And so between commercial and residential real estate, we do both, but we do a lot of the residential work. And we have a range of issues and disputes that come up when we're dealing with clients. But one that is an issue that I think gets overlooked sometimes is understanding some of the problems or potential pitfalls that buyers might deal with when they're reviewing a title report or other title type documents. And so I wanted to spend a few minutes today talking about that because it is one very important component of the disclosures that both the sellers and the buyers will deal with when they're involved in a transaction. You know, typically when we talk about disclosures in a real estate transaction, everyone always thinks about the home inspection report or the written disclosures like the transfer disclosure statement that the seller provides. And those are obviously very important. But another document that people receive as part of their package of disclosures is the preliminary title report. And the preliminary title report can have very, very important information in there that some people might not realize how it can impact them when they purchase the property. And so I'm going to talk about those issues that we see in the preliminary title reports and what kind of things that buyers and the agent should be looking for during these transactions. So you get your disclosure package and you're going to turn to a page and it says preliminary report. And that preliminary report is intended to identify any sort of liens or encumbrances on title. And those are going to be things that are excluded from the title insurance policy. So when you buy a home, you typically are going to also get a title insurance policy. And the title insurance policy is ensuring that you're getting title to the property clean and in your name. But the title insurance policy is typically going to have some exceptions to it. And the exceptions are going to be listed in the title report. And those need to be looked at closely before you decide whether you're comfortable buying the property or not. And so one issue that you see in a lot of title reports is going to be the easements. Easements are, by their nature, a shared use that someone else might have over the property you're purchasing. Or on the other side of it, you might need an easement for something that's over someone else's property, but that benefits the property you're purchasing. So a common example of a type of easement you'll see in one of these title reports is some sort of utility easement. So in this typical subdivisions we have in Palo Alto or in rural land, you're going to see easements. They're not exclusive to any type of property. Not every property has them, but a lot of them will. And so an easement might be something as minimal as a 5-foot strip along one of the outer perimeters of the property where maybe there's public utilities like water lines or gas lines or something like that. Typically, those kind of easements are not that big of a deal because they're within the setback area. And so you can't, necessarily build a house over them or anything anyway. So it's not that big of a concern. But some people don't realize even if there is a gas line easement or a water easement on the outer perimeter of their property, at some point, the utility company or a neighbor might need to access your property to fix that line. If there's a leak or a break in the sewer line or the water line or something like that, there might be rights of third parties to come onto your property and deal with that. So it's not the end of the world, but it's just something to realize. Now, there might be other situations where the easement maybe doesn't go along the edge of the property and it goes more along the middle of the backyard or something like that. Those can be a bit more problematic because in those situations, if you wanted to, for instance, build an accessory dwelling unit or put a pool in or something like that in the backyard, and there's an easement going right through the middle of the backyard, you might not be able to do so without either negotiating with whoever has the benefit of that easement or rerouting the lines or doing something. So it's something that you need to look for. And nowadays, the title companies prepare fairly handy plat maps that actually approximately show the location of the easement. So that's something that can be very helpful to look at so you understand, okay, is this running right through the middle of the backyard or is it more along the edges where maybe I won't care as much? So the utility easements are exceptionally common. Another type of easement that's pretty common might be some sort of ingress and egress easement. So sometimes parties have shared driveways where if you're in a flag lot or something like that, one party might have a right to drive over a portion of your property for their driveway to get to their property that's further off the street. Again, it's important to look and see what these are, though, and where they're located, because anytime someone else has rights in your property, you're going to want to know the extent of them. And it's important to read the actual easements themselves. So you don't want to just see, oh, okay, maybe there's an easement over here and not much to it. You got to actually look at the document, which will be hyperlinked as part of the title report, to see, okay, does this say who is in charge of maintaining the driveway? Or does this say what happens if someone gets hurt on the driveway? Those are important considerations to look at. And if you or your agent don't understand it, you might want to go talk to the title company for some sort of explanation. And there might even be times where if it's a fairly complex easement that talks about road maintenance or shared responsibilities, you might also want to have an attorney take a look at it. So easements are one of the big ones that we see in title reports and something to certainly watch out for. Another issue that comes up a lot is if you're buying in some sort of common interest development, so a condo association or a group of houses that are part of a homeowners association, the title report is going to show all the different things that are part of that homeowners association, which might include CC&Rs, codes, covenants, and restrictions. You can also sometimes have easements within the HOA, where the HOA, either the organization itself or other homeowners might have easement rights over your property. But the CC&Rs are really the biggest one you're going to want to look at in those type of situations. And again, it's one of those things where if you hit the hyperlink in the prelim, it could be a 40, 50, 60, 70 page document with all kinds of restrictions on the things that you can do in that particular condo association or neighborhood. This is a document that if you're buying a home, you really need to read, because there might be things that you might not realize you can or cannot do with that property that might make you say, this isn't the property for us. For example, I'm a dog person. My wife and I have two big Labrador mixes. Some homeowners associations, especially condos or townhomes, might say you're only allowed to have one dog, or you are only able to have one dog over 50 pounds, things like that. That might not matter to half the people in the world, but it might matter to you. So you need to read through and look for those kind of things. And in a 50, 60 page document, that's a lot of reading, but it's very important. Another one that comes up a lot is what kind of things you can do to the property in terms of architectural control. An example of that is in a condo, there's a lot of condos these days that don't allow for hardwood flooring. That can be very problematic for some people, because either they might have some sort of allergy to carpet, or they just like having hardwood floors. But because of noise transmission between units, there is some sort of trend where a lot of HOAs are restricting hardwood floors. And it's not always that you can't have hardwood floors anywhere, but maybe you can only have a certain percentage of the unit have hardwood flooring. The living areas might be allowed, but the bedrooms might not, things like that. So again, if it's important to you, you got to read the CC&Rs and discover these type of things. The list goes on and on about the types of things that can come in CC&Rs, whether you're allowed to rent the property or not. Some HOAs restrict your ability to lease the space, or they only allow a certain number of units within the complex to rent out the property. The big hot button issue right now is Airbnbs. A lot of HOAs are restricting short-term Airbnb type rentals. So if that's why you're buying the property, you got to read the CC&Rs and make sure that's not restricted. View restrictions can be found in CC&Rs. So you might not be able to build the house a certain way if you're going to block someone else's views. The list really goes on and on. But the key thing is, this isn't the kind of thing where a buyer can just say, hey, real estate agent, or hey, attorney, or hey, title company, tell me what I need to know about these CC&Rs. Because my answer to that question is always going to be, you got to read them yourself, because I don't know what matters to you. I don't know if you're a dog person or a pet person. I don't know if you want hardwood floors or not. So it's really critical that those be examined before you release your contingency on the title issues. The last issue that I want to raise with title issues goes to property lines. one of the things that is in my office every week right now are disputes about property lines. And when someone buys the house, they think the fence indicates where the true property line is. But when they get a survey done, they find out the fence is actually 2 or 3 feet off in one direction or the other. And so some title policies will actually cover that. If you buy the property and there's some sort of boundary line issue, the title company might be willing to provide insurance and to pay you some compensation if something comes up like that. But it's becoming more and more common that the title policies specifically exclude any issues with the property lines that could be determined by a survey, which means that if you buy a property without doing a survey, like most, a high majority of people do, you might not have coverage for that. So if you have some sort of concerns about knowing exactly where the property lines are, you can't rely on the title report. And that's something that you either have to live with the risk that the property lines are off a little bit, or you can take the extreme step of getting a survey done before you actually get into contract or release your contingencies. So that's a big picture consideration of what to look for in title issues and title reports before you buy the property. Like I said, that's just one component of many things to consider when you're doing your due diligence and deciding to release contingencies. But I think it's the one that gets overlooked the most.
You're absolutely correct. And also specifically in Palo Alto, we do see frequently the lot dimensions and the lot sizes are different from what the city shows and what the county shows. So I always tell my client that go with a more conservative, or more importantly, go with the city of Palo Alto dimensions and the square feet, because at the end of the day, they're the entity are going to be issuing the permit.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much, Simon. I'm sure there are a lot of viewers are going to be asking for your advice. How do they get hold of you?
Of course. So you can call us at 650-327-2900. You can also email me at Simon, SIMON, at brewerfirm, BREWERFIRM.com. And you can go on our website, brewerfirm.com. And we have a blog there with all kinds of other interesting information and articles and newsletters and all that about these topics and many more.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. But thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to talking to you again.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jackie. Look forward to seeing you soon.